Alright, so hello everyone. We are back with Strategy Sunday, Volume 11 this time, looking at Moonlight, the insane superhero himself. Um, yep, we'll just jump right into it. Basic stats. I think these are getting shorter and shorter every single time because I just think I'll keep repeating myself. Um, Moonlight is a melee fighter with 16 health, move 3. Um, no sidekicks, so he is solo. Move 3, as always, is always better than move 2. And being a solo melee fighter, move 3 definitely helps, just as Daredevil 2, kind of, because the initial hoof will probably be on you most of the time, because you have like no sidekicks to body block or cover the board a bit more. So move 3 is pretty nice to have a bit more mobility and actually get to your opponent without boosting. 16 health is also quite good. It's a bit above average, but you also have 4 healing in the deck, so that makes your health go up to 20, and, well, that 20 health will probably be way more in most games because of your other character abilities. Um, Being a solo fighter, as always, leaves issues, but you have enough ways to play around that. As always, all damage will be directed onto Moonlight himself, so you don't have anything to suck up their damage. You will be the one approaching every single time, so they know what is coming. It's not like you have a sidekick where you can just bait them or whatever, or body block. Um, and yeah, melee is always solo melee is always a problem a bit because yeah, you don't have much ways to put the initiative onto your opponent. Although in Moonlight's case, it's a bit of a different story because of your ability. Other than that, you have 12 unique cards in your deck, which makes you really consistent. And in this case, well, you are actually really consistent. Moonlight is probably one of the most consistent fighters in all of Unmatched. It's insane. Um, but yeah, we'll jump into the character ability. It says for Moonlight, at the start of your turn, move up to 2 spaces. At the end of your turn, change to your next identity, being Khonshu. Alright, so maybe you're asking now, wait, change to your next identity? What's up here? Um, you have 3 different character abilities and you change it every single turn. Um, you start the game as Moonlight, this one. After that, you will switch to Khonshu, and after your Khonshu turn, you will switch to Mr. Knight, and after your Mr. Knight turn, you will switch back to Moonlight. And you will have to do that every single time. You can't just say, nah, I want to stay this and that. No, you have to switch every single time. You have one card that allows you to skip one, basically. But other than that, you are locked into this cycle, which will kind of give you your ability. So, talking about your Moon Knight character, this is probably your most vulnerable since it only grants you movement and like no damage increase, no defense increase, nothing else. Um, you have just your normal cards and that's it. Well, it's not bad, but the other ones are just better. Um, Being able to move the 2 spaces at the start of your turn is pretty nice to set up your positioning for your big Khonshu turn, because as we will see, Khonshu is the one that will actually deal damage. So what you tend to do as Moon Knight is you kind of use your 2-hop to maybe attack them once, or just well, attack them once, first action, then maneuver away into center stage, and then, well, you're leading into your Khonshu turn, where you will be at center, so you'll probably be able to reach your opponent again. Um, or you just hop away, get a bit distance, draw 2 cards, and then have more options for your Khonshu turn. This is basically your setup. You won't really do much while you're on Moonlight, but you will still have to plan for it because your opponent will want to attack you in this state every single time. And yeah, at the end of your turn, you change to Khonshu. Um, and this is probably the most insane character ability I have yet seen in Unmatched. It says Khonshu adds +2 to the value of his attack cards. He does not take damage from effects other than combat damage. At the end of your turn, change to your next identity, being Mr. Knight. Okay, so +2 to all attacks is insane. That's Big Alice, and you know how scary Big Alice is with 9 value Mangsums throwing around. That's insane. Also, the strongest part of this ability is not even at +2. It's not taking any damage except combat damage. That's huge. Any like effect-based damage, let's say from Little Red Stack Once Upon a Time, yeah, you don't take effect damage. Any ping damage, maybe Medusa's ability or Ghost Rider's room, yeah, you don't care. Fatigue damage, you don't care. Concho ignores fatigue damage. It's so insane. You can only deal damage to him via combat damage. And that's huge. Concho is insanely strong. Um, some of your cards as well do self damage. They say like, yeah, you may take 2 damage and then the opponent takes 2 damage, or you may take 2 damage to draw 2 cards. Yeah, Concho also ignores those. So Concho is insane. This is your big damage. This is all your power budget. It's just Concho. So if you fuck up your Concho turns, you basically don't have much damage in the deck. So you'll have to plan for these optimally. That's why you have Moonlight before to kind of get your positioning right, to get a bit more distance between you and your opponent, so they can't really pressure you to, like maybe you have only 4 cards in hand at the end of turn, then they might go in and attack you, and then you only have 3, and you might not want to double attack them because hey, then you only would be at 1 card, and that would be scary. So that's why you have Moonlight before to kind of get a bit of distance, draw cards, set up for your good contra turn, get more options, and then you'll smack them hard. And then at the end of your turn, you change to Mr. Knight. So Mr. Knight adds +1 to all of his defense values. At the end of your turn, change to your next identity, being Moonlight. Okay, so +1 to all of your defenses makes you insanely tanky. That's just like small Alice buff. And you have it every third turn. So you can imagine like your 16 health. Yeah, 1/3 of the time you will have +1 defense. So if we would just like add 1/3 of your health on top of that, because 1/3 of the time you have 1 health extra kinda on your defense, that gets you to a 21 health total kinda, if you can do that with maths. Like, it's insane, you're so tanky with Mr. Knight. However, this only counts if you have played a defense card. So it's just like Small Alice, and not like someone like Luke Cage, who just ignores 2 damage and whether he defends or not. Um, so it's just +1 if you have played a card. And of course, it only counts for the actual value, so it will not prevent effect damage or ping damage from Medusa or anything else. But this is really good because since you are Mr. Knight just after your Contra turn, as Contra you'll probably go into their face and smack them. So you'll probably end adjacent since you are melee, and they will have a double attack opportunity. So it's really good that on their turn, after your Contra turn ends, you will have Mr. Knight to kind of negate some damage while they are able to attack you. So that is really good to have that extra defense here. And then at the end of your Mr. Knight turn, you will change back to Moonlight and the cycle repeats. But yeah, speaking of the cycle, just as a quick summary, as Moon Knight, you start the game as this. You kind of set your positioning, get cards, and you are like most vulnerable since you have no damage prevention at all. As Conch, you have like the prevention of effects and pings. As Mr. Knight, you have the extra value increase to your cards, but Moon Knight has nothing, so your opponent will want to punish you as much as possible, and also like lower your hand size so you can't make use of your Conch turn optimally. After that, as Concho, of course, it's big damage time. But if your opponent should decide to attack you, expect high value attacks and no effect based damage, like Once Upon a Time from Little Red, maybe, because that won't deal any damage to you. So they will probably like smack you big because Conchu might have that extra effect negation, but the actual card values are still the same. So you will still probably only have a print 3 defense most of the time, so they can still hit you big over that. If they maybe are brave enough and have enough cards and feel like they can tank your contra turn. So they might want to attack you with their signature big attack, and then maybe you're worried and might have to waste your contra turn after. And then as Mr. Knight after that, you have your good value blocks. Um, so you will probably have to expect your opponent throwing any effect-based damage that they have in their deck, maybe a point blank from Yenengar's deck or whatever, because actual combat damage won't be as effective because you have your +1 value. And after that, you switch back to Moonlight and the cycle repeats. Um, Planning these three is really important to you because Khonshu, like I said, is your only real big damage, so you'll have to play around that as much as possible. If you have to waste a Khonshu turn maneuvering away, or maybe healing, or whatever, just everything else than attacking, you feel really sad. And your opponent will want you to push to that certain threshold where you feel worried and waste your Khonshu turn every single time. Um, so you'll have to kind of plan 1 or 2 turns ahead as Moon Knight um, to make work of your big damage as good as possible. But yeah, going into the cards, we have I'm Not Real. It's a 4 value attack for Moon Knight. These are all any because you can use every single card with every single form. That's why they are any, but I'll just say it's for Moon Knight because Moon Knight is the character name. And yeah, it has a boost value of 2. You have 3 copies. It says after combat, you may change to your next identity. Okay, so 4 value attacks are on their own pretty okay. Like, they usually deal 1 combat damage because average block value is a 3, so you don't really complain about that. However, if you play this as Khonshu, of course, you have your +2, so this would be a 6 value attack, which is just like a log from Bigfoot, which is really, really good. Also, being able to skip one form is really nice. This is the one case where I said you can interrupt the cycle and maybe skip one identity. Ideally, you play this either as Khonshu for the 6 value attack, and then maybe ignore the cycle to still get into Mr. Knight, or you play it as Mr. Knight to skip your Moon Knight identity, and at the end of your turn, since you will change to Moon Knight with this card, and then at the end of your Moon Knight turn, you will switch to Khonshu, if that makes sense. So you kind of skip your Moon Knight turn if you have the cards to do so. So this can be really good. However, if you maybe have the opportunity to do so, your opponent is low on cards, you can also use your Moon Knight ability hop to hop the 2 spaces adjacent to them, attack with this first action, change to Khonshu, so for your second attack you would be Khonshu, which maybe they didn't expect because they thought, hey, you are Moon Knight now, this is like your least scary form because you don't have any value increases, you're just like a bit more mobile. Maybe they didn't expect you to attack with something big, and they don't have the right defenses to defend properly. So this is a really cool card. Deciding when to play this and change to your next ability and your next identity, I should say, can really help you in your cycle if you should get pressured down or find yourself, yeah, I'm in the wrong identity every single time. This can prevent that a bit and give you a bit more control, although it's still about planning ahead. And then next up we have That's Why I Always Win. It's a 3 value attack from Moon Knight with a boost value of 2. You have 3 copies, and it says during combat you may boost this attack. Okay, so 3 value attacks are already like, okay, as Khonshu this would be a 5, which would already be good. However, being able to boost this is huge damage potential. Since you have 4 3 boosts in your deck, this could be an 8 value attack if you boost it as Khonshu. Or otherwise, if you boost it with a 2, still a 7, which is still really, really good. However, this is probably the only attack that you can also throw as the other ones that will deal proper damage, because if you're attacking with someone like Moon Knight or Mr. Knight, your opponent will probably not defend as high because they want to like keep their best value blocks for your Khonshu turns to prevent as much damage as possible because you could just be baiting them. So if you throw this, for example, as Mr. Knight, you could still boost it with a 3 to get it up to a 6, and maybe they only defend it with a blank 3, and then you still deal 3 damage, in which case you feel really good. And if they should decide to still defend high, you can just decide not to boost at all. And well, they wasted one of their best blocks, and you still have your contra turn coming up. Um, so this card is really cool, really versatile. Sometimes you even boost it with itself because you want to play the value game in many cases, in which case you don't want to be boosting as much every single time to just keep the value of your other cards. Um, but this card is really cool. It's really versatile, being able to bait with it or just swing high for an 8. It's really cool. Next up, we have Good Enough for Us. It's a 4 value versatile for Moonlight. With a boost value of 1, you have 2 copies, and it says after combat, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, take 2 damage. Okay, so 4 value versatiles, of course, are great. Um, there's nothing you can complain about that. That's max value block in most decks. However, in this deck it's even better because, of course, as Khonshu, this could be a 6 value attack where you ignore the self damage and you can draw 2 cards for free. That's insane. Like Commanding Impact as a 5 value attack that draws 1 card is already pretty scary. This as Khonshu is a 6 value attack that draws 2 cards for free, which is insane if you want to pressure their opponent and keep up hand size. Other than that, you can still play this as a 5 value block as Mr. Knight, which is still insane. And like even as Moonlight, it's still a print 4 block. Like that's probably the best you can get in most cases. So you don't complain about that. This is just an insanely good card. Um, although it's ideally used as Khonshu to avoid the self damage because this is like the only guaranteed card draw in your deck. Uh, that gets used at least because you have one other card that guaranteed kind of draws you cards, but it's the worst card in the game. You basically never use it. So um, getting the card draw on this can be pretty crucial for you since your opponent will want to pressure you in the right moments to kind of force you to waste your contra turns or just get you into a bad cycle where you can't use your identities optimally. And this can kind of help you to keep up the draw and kind of withstand that pressure and still do what you actually wanted. Next up, we have That's the Part I Like, Insane card. It's a 3 value versatile for Moonlight. With a boost value of 2, you have 2 copies. And it says after combat. If you won the combat, you may look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and discard one of them. Place the other 2 back in any order. Okay, 3 value versatiles are already good. That's average block. You don't complain about it as much. The effect, however, is insanely good. Being able to look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and discard one of them is really good. First of all, your opponent will have like no chance to play the actual card before that because hey, it's still in their deck. So you can't just deny them one card, and if you maybe hit a Beast Form from Dracula, you just can insta-win the game. Also, um, placing the other 2 back in any order, it's still deck knowledge, so you can kind of decide what they will get next, and you still know what they will have in hand, maybe, which can help. But the most important thing about this card is the if you won the combat. You have to try to trigger this every single time. This card is so insanely valuable, it gives you so much extra power and knowledge and value. It's really insane. It could be a 5 value attack as Khonshu, which sounds pretty scary. If your opponent feints it, well, it's still 3 damage. I think in that case you're still fine with that. And if they don't, you probably win combat in many cases. However, there are some new fighters that can also block for print 5, so in that case it might not be as good. It could, however, also be a 4 value defense. In which case, well, if your opponent doesn't have like any +2s or maybe only 3 cards that actually get above a 4 value attack, well, then you can just wait until those are gone, and then this is guaranteed on defense. Try to think about when to play this in every single matchup. There are some way you want to actually attack with this as Khonshu and either get the 3 damage or the top deck discard, which is really good. in both cases. And there are some way you actually want to defend with this as Mr. Knight, um, because on offense it wouldn't be guaranteed. And then you still feel happy because, hey, you discarded one of their cards on their turn, and then they feel really sad, and you have your maybe you can attack with I'm Not Real next, and already like switch to Konshu at the end of your turn, and then they are really scared. Um, this card is just insanely good, and yeah, probably one of the best in your deck. Then next up we have Fist of Konshu. It's a 3-value versatile for Moonlight with a boost value of 2. You have 2 copies. And it says after combat, if you won the combat, move the opposing fighter to 4 spaces. So just like before, 3-value versatiles are good. You don't complain about that. Being able to move the opposing fighter, however, can be really nice to prevent double attacks, or to mess with their positioning. Um, Ideally, of course, you play this as Mr. Knight. You went in there, smacked them with Konshu really hard, and now it's their turn. They are probably able to double attack you, uh, but you are Mr. Knight, so this would be a 4, and a 4 winning combat on defense is pretty likely if they are not attacking you with their signature attack. So you can just, if you win combat, push them away, and they could only attack you once, and you didn't actually take damage, which is really good. However, since this is conditional on winning combat, um, you probably want to play as Mr. Knight or Contra every single time, and even if you do, it might still not trigger. So don't rely on it every single time. If you only have this as defense, um, you shouldn't maybe just go in if you know, well, Houdini has his big reveal and he could just smack me over it and then attack again or whatever. So still keep that in mind. You can also attack with this as Khonshu as your second action. Maybe your opponent ended adjacent to you and you attack first action, and second action you can attack with this because 5-value attack, well, you probably win combat and then can push them away as Khonshu still, so they don't end adjacent to you and you don't get double attack. This card just really versatile. It's actually really good. Just a bit more conditional and like not as good of an effect as that's the part I like, but still, it's a good card. You don't complain about it. And then we have Past and Present Intermingle. It's a 2-value versatile for Moonlight with a 2 boost value, and you have 3 copies. It says during combat, add the boost value of the top card of your discard pile to this card's value. Okay, 2-value versatiles are like okay and usually play for their effect. However, in this case, the effect bumps the value of this card, and that every single time, if not fainted. If not fainted, this is always at least a 3, because you will always have at least a 1 boost in your discard pile on top, if not more. And speaking of discard pile, you will have to keep order of your discard pile just because of this card. Well, at least you have to keep track of which is like the last card you played. So the last card in your discard pile, you'll have to keep track of that. Without buffs, this could be upwards of a 5-value defense or attack for Moonlight himself, which is like your highest value block you can get for him if we are like not in Mr. Knight or Khonshu. Since you have 4 3 boosts in the deck, if they are on top, this could be a 5-value block, which is insanely good because your opponent will want to pressure you and attack you if you are Moonlight, and being able to block for a 5 is just insane in that case. However, with buffs, as Mr. Knight, this could be a 6-value block or even a 7-value attack as Khonshu. This card is insane. It is probably almost at least a 4 because you have so many 2 boosts or higher in the deck, and I think, how many was it? I think only 4 1 boosts. I could be mistaken with that. But it's not many. It's 5 1 boosts, I think. So it will probably be at least a 4 in any case without buffs, in which case it's always already like a max value block, and it could be higher if you have your other forms. So this card is insanely good. Like, it's so versatile, you can basically use it at every single time and it will be good. And yeah, and you can use it in every form. It's just really good defense for Moonlight. It's even better defense for Mr. Knight, and it's still a 7-value attack with Khonshu, where you don't even have to boost. Like, The 3 boostable, well, you will have to boost and actually spend an additional card to get that upwards of a 7 or 8 attack. This is just a 7 on its own, if you have the right cards in your discard pile. So it's insanely good. Probably also one of your best cards in the deck. And yeah. Then we have a totally sane thing to do. It's a 2-value versatile with a boost value of 1. You have 3 copies. It says after combat, you may deal 2 damage to both fighters in the combat. Okay, 2-value versatiles are like, okay, and usually play for their effects, just like with past and present. Um, Dealing 2 damage to both fighters in the combat is great auto damage potential. This can be upwards of 6 auto damage throughout the game if you get all of the 3 copies of this and actually use them. And, well, you have Konshu, and Konshu ignores effect damage. So Konshu ignores the 2 self-damage from this card and just deals the 2 back to your opponent, which is really good. Um, that can work like a 6-value attack as Concha, because if you attack with it, well, you have +2 on the actual value, so it would be a 4 that deals 2 to them after combat. So kind of like a 6, and you don't take any damage yourself, which can be good. However, I think you have many other things that you can attack with Concha like that are better than this. So what I tend to do is actually use this on defense as Conchu if my opponent is attacking me. Um, to actually get that 2 damage back to them. It's, of course, only a 2-value block, so if they attack big, it still hurts, but I will deal 2 damage back to them. And maybe they didn't expect that, and now they are in lethal range of maybe like 1 8-value attack and then a 6, or whatever. And it technically, like, it doesn't hurt as much. It's still like a point blank block from Yanenga where you deal 2 back, but you can also use this against ranged ones. It's not requiring adjacency, so it's just a good card overall. You have just probably a bit better options most of the time. Like for attacks as Concha, you have 8s or just straight up 6s or whatever. Um, and as defense, you have like your passive presence or whatever. But it can still be a really good card. Like there is only I think one bad card in Moonlight's deck. Everything else just at least decent, if not really good. So yeah, this card has much potential and can catch your opponent off guard if you play it as Contra on defense. So yeah, keep that in mind. And then we'll jump into the next one. It's your typical Feint. You love to see Feint in any deck. It's a 2-value versatile for Moonlight with a boost value of 1. You have 3 copies. Oh, then it's 8-1 boosts in the deck. True. Um, and it says immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's cards. Okay, well, you love to see Feint. Canceling all effects on your opponent's card is always nice to have as an option. If they have something you want to desperately stop as an effect, you can just play Feint, and maybe you took 2 damage, but they didn't get their still standing from Luke, maybe, or whatever. Feint is just always nice to have. However, in this deck, it's even better because of your value increases. Usually the big weakness of Feint is its actual value. It's only a 2. If you attack with it, well, you maybe stop their movement and you stop their card draw, but you don't deal any damage. And if you played it on defense, well, you maybe stop their crazy if you won the combat effect, but you still took 1 or 2 damage over it because it's only a 2. Um, this kind of gets negated by Mr. Knight and Khonshu. Because if you defend with this as Mission Knight, it becomes a 3-value Fate on defense. It has a 3-value, which is like really good. That's just like just your imagination from Bigfoot's deck. And 3 block is average, so well, you don't really complain about that. It's really good. And if you attack with it as Khonshu, this can be a 4-value offensive feint, which is really good. That's like from She-Hulk's deck with Cease and Desist, which is really good. This can be a great first attack as Khonshu. If you are able to double attack them, you can attack with this first. If they fainted themselves, they probably still take 2 damage over the feint and they didn't move away. And if they didn't faint, well, you still keep them in place and maybe still dealt 1 damage over their 3-value block, or maybe they played something that increases value and you just cancel that effect and you still have a 4, which can be really great. And it kinda always guarantees you to get a second attack if your opponent doesn't have a cancel that also moves, which I think only Electra has. I could be wrong. But yeah, this is just a really great card, especially in Moonlight's deck. But yeah, even as Moonlight himself, you still love to see a feint, and if there is a crucial effect in your opponent's deck that you want to cancel, just throw this and it's really good. And then we have Let Your Insanity Guide You. It's a one value versatile for Moonlight with a boost value of 2. You have 2 copies. It says after combat, discard the top card of your deck. Draw cards equal to that card's boost value. Okay, well, this is the one card that I've talked about. This is insanely bad. It's so bad. Holy cow. Um, one value versatiles are like usually only used as bait on offense and not even on defense because hey, it's not worth it. Um, in this case, it's even worse because this is probably like the worst card in all of Unmatched. Um, Discarding a card from your own deck is insanely bad. Like, if you were to discard a card from your hand, well, you could at least discard the other copy of this, maybe. Um, you would still lose value, but at least you would know what you're discarding and you can plan like how many cards you want to draw from it. No, it's completely random. Um, it's top deck discard. You could lose maybe a feint. Let's say you lose a feint and you're playing against Sidbad, then you feel really bad. You only draw one card and you lost probably your best defense. It's so bad. And if you defend with this, well, you're still taking so much damage because it's only a one value block. So it can't really be used as a bait attack on offense because you are losing way more value than your opponent is. And you can't really defend it with it because you still are losing value and are also taking like heavy damage on top of it. It's often just way better to not defend at all, actually, because even let's say if you play this as Mr. Knight on defense, um, it is a 2 value block, which is like not the worst. It's still better than a 1. But you're only preventing 2 damage. If we are talking about fatigue, this card discards 1 card from the top of your deck. So that's the 2 damage you were just negating, just losing automatically. And your opponent may still deal damage on top of this. But also, you draw cards equal to the discarded card's boost value, so you're still drawing and getting deeper into your deck, even like more, like as if the top deck discard wasn't enough. So this card is just insanely bad. I would probably never play this. This is best boost fodder for your boostable 3. If you have the option to boost with this, do it. It's a 2 boost that can get the card up to a 7, and you don't complain about that, and you lost like the worst card in your deck. The only time I would actually play this is if you're really getting aggro down, this is the last card in your hand, and they still are able to attack you a second time. Well, yeah, you might have to swallow that bitter pill and just discard the top card of your deck to actually get cards to defend a second time because you would die otherwise. But that's the only time I would probably actually play this. Other than that, just boost with this, boost your movement, boost your boostable attack, do anything, but just don't play it. And then the last actual combat card in the deck we have, we're all in this together. It's a 3 value block for Moonlight with a boost value of 2. You have 3 copies, and it says after combat, if you won the combat, draw 1 card. Okay, so 3 value blocks are good. It's average block value. Um, the effect, if you won the combat, draw 1 card. It's a bit conditional if this is only a 3, so if you play this as Moonlight or Khonshu, winning with 3 value on defense is like not that likely because attack values tend to be higher than actual defense values. Um, you love to see it if this goes into something like a regroup as a bait because it's like not your best block and you still keep up the draw. Um, However, if you play this as Mr. Knight, it can be a 4 value block, in which case winning combat is not that unlikely, and just getting the draw can be nice to kind of withstand pressure a bit, keep hand advantage, and not get aggroed down as much. Um, but yeah, it's just a basic card, like nothing special about it. Just good overall, and yeah, the draw can be nice. In some cases, you actually want this to lose combat because you don't want to draw deeper into your deck, which is funny. But yeah, other than that, it's just a good overall card. Like nothing special, nothing crazy like some of your other ones. But yeah. And then getting into the schemes, we have Madness will keep you alive. You have two copies of it with a 3 boost value, and it says recover 2 health. If you started your turn in a different space, gain 1 action. Okay, so recovering 2 health already is really good. This is your only healing in the deck. It brings your total health pool up to a 20, which is just insanely tanky. If you consider that you have +1 defense on every third turn, um, this can be a pass in Fatigue if you didn't move because it will spend the action and not draw your cards or gain you an action and also heal you, which is really good. However, if you did move, you can still use this to recover the 2, gain the action, and keep up pressure. Um, Something you can do is maybe as Moonlight, you hop the 2 spaces, then you attack with something like um, your I'm not real. So you change into Khonshu. Then you play this because you still have a second action. You recover the 2 health, but because you moved with a Moonlight mob hop, with a Moonlight mob, with a Moonlight hop, you gain the action. So you can still attack again as Khonshu, and you have a 3 boost on top of your discard value, so you can attack with Past Imprisoned Intermingle to attack with a 7 value, which is really good. Um, Other than that, you can also just stay in place or maneuver away and then play this as a pass second action to kind of, as Mr. Knight, to set up that 3 boost on top going into Moonlight to have Past and Present as a 5 value defense on Moonlight, which is like the form where you are most likely to get attacked. So this card is just really versatile. Um, and yeah, it's one of your only 3 boosts in the deck. The other one is the other scheme you have. So you can throw this into your boostable, in which case like you can feel sad in some cases, but if you are already like winning and know you only have to land one additional attack, you can still throw this and make the boostable an 8. I wouldn't recommend it every time because you could just boost with any other card and make it a 7, in which case it's probably still really good and you keep your 2 healing and the pass for fatigue. And keep reminding, Khonshu ignores fatigue damage, so you have an insane fatigue game adding this to conscious ability. So you might want to keep this as a pass in many matchups, but yeah, you can toy around with 3 boost with past and present or your boostable, and yeah, it's just really good. It's a really versatile, depending on if you want to play it as pass or just pressure, and yeah, really good card. And then last one we have Travelers of the Night. It's another scheme with a boost value of 3, you have 2 copies, and it says move your fighter up to 4 spaces. They may move through opposing fighters. Gain 1 action. So moving 4 spaces is always great for a move 3 fighter, that's like better than a normal maneuver. Being able to move through opposing fighters is even better because it helps you to get to your actual target. You can ignore body blocks, move through 1 health sidekicks, you can even move through secret passageways if they are camping on one, and still get to them, which is really good. And then, of course, you gain the action, so you will probably be able to double attack your uh, wanted target. Optimally, of course, this is used as Khonshu. You can play this for first action, get to them, you still have the 3 boost on top. You can maybe first action attack with past and present to make it a 7, and a second action with the boostable to make it an 8, which is like in one turn a 15 value attack on split into 2 attacks, which is insane. You want to play this as Khonshu almost every single time to just get most value. And this card is also the reason why you want a move 4 center map almost every single time, so you can guarantee to get most value out of Khonshu with this card, and you feel really bad if you have to boost with this or maybe just play it and only be able to attack once, because you could just get so much more value out of this if you just wait for your next contra turn and then maybe get a double attack, because double attacks as contra hurt as hell. But yeah, insanely good card. this leads to you getting like big damage every single time. It makes your opponent worry about their positioning, and if you have a move 4 center map, well, it's almost guaranteed if they have no body blocks. So yeah, really, really good. So getting to the conclusion, Moonlight, as you have seen, is a extremely versatile fighter that has like the tools to win almost every matchup. You have Konshu to deal big damage, you have Mr. Knight to kind of negate much damage. You also have two passes and Conscious ability to negate fatigue damage, so you can play a really mean fatigue game. You can almost do everything, and like you almost have no bad cards except for that your insanity guide you. Um, Everything else is basically good. So it's kind of like the Yanenga thing where you can draw into anything and it will be useful. So just really, really consistent and versatile fighter. Of course, making use of your different forms is key to any Moonlight game. Since you're locked into your cycle, except for I'm Not Real, you will have to plan one or two turns ahead, so Moonlight is not the easiest fighter to play. You will have to know your opponent's capabilities, their deck, their fighter, what you actually want to do against them every single time, and maybe know how to approach them. Because you will have the initiative in most cases, since you are locked into your cycle, you will probably have to approach as Khonshu, and your opponent knows that. Um, so knowing what your opponent can defend or attack with is even more important with Moonlight than with other fighters, in my opinion, um, because they will, of course, try to abuse your cycle as often as possible to make you waste your contra turns. Because if you don't have contra turns, well, you don't really have much damage. But even if that should be the case, um, don't be like as pessimistic, because since you ignore fatigue damage as Conchi, you can still play a mean value game and attack with the other forms just to waste their good cards, and then win in fatigue since you have the two passes and Contra ignoring fatigue damage. So yeah, and you have a total health of 20, and like you won't take as much combat damage or damage in total because of Conscious ability and Mr. Knight. So yeah, don't be as worried as if you waste one or maybe two Contra turns per game. Yeah, it hurts, but you can still turn around, and if you get a good traveler's turn with Khonshu, yeah, you can just smack the game around in one turn. But yeah, just plan one or two turns ahead. Try to keep in mind what your opponent could do to you to maybe um, force you to waste your good forms in the way you want to, and then you should be fine. So, the actual card deal list, of course, as always, the placements can change dependent on the matchup. In D tier, we have Let Your Insanity Guide You. This card is so insanely bad. Just don't play it. Use it as a boost too. That's why I always win. And yeah. Then in C tier, I don't think you have any C tier cards. Everything else is just good or even better than good. Then in B tier, we have your normal Feint. I was considering putting it in A tier, but in most matchups it's not as important. In the She-Hulk one, actually, it's insanely good because you can just throw a 4-value feint into Lady Justice and She-Hulk cries. Um, but yeah, it's just feint. You don't complain about feint. You love to see feint in any deck. It can be really good. However, it can also be punished. Not as much in Moonlight's deck, but yeah, it's just a good card overall. Then we're all in this together, just decent block. It's nothing special. The card draw can be nice, sometimes it can hurt, but yeah. 3-value block is just good. And then we get to the really, really good cards. We have Fist of Khonshu. Since you are able to attack or defend with this, you can like more so play around actually getting the movement effect, in which case it's really good because moving your opponent 4 spaces is really good. It messes up their positioning, maybe you can split them from their sidekick, um, or just prevent double attacks. It's really good, can be 4 block or 5-value attack, you don't complain about either of them. Then good enough for us, well, it's a max value block. You don't complain about it. Um, can be 6-value attack that draws 2 cards, and it's insane that I don't put such a card in S tier. But yeah, um, In the other forms, it's not as useful because you probably won't want to take the 2 self damage to draw the 2 cards, even though you want cards from this almost every single time probably. But yeah, as Mr. Knight, it's still a 5 block, or as Moonlight, it's still a 4 block, which is kind of like the best thing you can get, except for past and present. So yeah, it's just a good card overall. That's why I always win. Um, Technically your highest value attack, but you have to spend 2 cards for it. But still also a good attack to throw as Mr. Knight or Moon Knight, since you can still boost it up to a 6 or 5, or just bait one of their good defenses. It's just versatile, and like, it's not the best, but still good. Then a totally sane thing to do. Um, as Conchu can still work as a 4 value attack if your opponent throws maybe a 5 value block for some reason, if they have one. You still deal a 2 damage via the effect, which is really good. Um, but if you play it on defense as Conchu, it still deals 2 damage back to them. It only is a 2 value block, of course, but your opponent might be surprised by the 2 damage, and then you can maybe lethal them. Just a good card overall. Not the best, but yeah, it's just good. Um, I'm not real, being able to kind of mess with your cycle on your own and deciding if you want to swap or not can help you if you are getting aggro down, or like if you are actually aggroing your opponent and you want to get your next contra turn first faster, you can just maybe skip your Mr. Knight or Moon Knight turn with this, and then smack the move contra again if you should have hand advantage or anything else. Just a really versatile card, and it can help you to get out of these tricky situations where you can't optimally use your different forms and identities. And then S tier are just the ones that are crucial to all of your games. Um, that's the part I like. The chosen discard from top 3 cards is so insanely good. If you hit one of their best cards, that's almost always GG, because, well, they can't really do much damage to you, or maybe that you rob them their good pass and now you just can wait and play fatigue or whatever. The deck knowledge is also really good, and it's still a 5 value attack with control or 4 block with Mr. Knight. It's insanely good. You want to trigger it every single time. And then past and present, it the more I think about this card, like, it looks on paper not as strong, but it's so insanely good. Um, it's almost always at least a 4 block, if not a 5 without your buffs. It can just be an outright 7 value attack with Khonshu, and it's not as hard to set that up. It can be a 6 value defense for Mr. Knight, or just a 5 for Moon Knight. Um, it's just insanely good. Like, that card is stupidly strong. And then the other twos are your schemes. Madness will keep you alive. Just recovering 2 health is really good as a pass. Also, having the option to gain the action and keep up pressure is really good. You can set up your past and present with this. It's just insanely good. Then Travelers as well. This is like your big option for Khonshu. This is what your opponent is worried about the most of the time. That's why you won't move 4 center maps, and if you have, you'll always basically get a free double attack opportunity with Khonshu, in which case you also have a 3 boost on top for past and present or whatever. It's insanely good. Those are like probably your 2 best cards. That's why they also have the 3 boost in this case. And yeah, the matchups might seem really good for Moon Knight, but I think he has suffered a bit more due to the recent sets being Sun's Origin and Tails to Maze, because Moon Knight is like even or favored against 99% of the cast basically, but the ones he sucks against are the ones that are actually meta relevant, which is really sad. Um, you have Wukong in Don't Try It Here. Holy, that matchup's bad. Um, then Electra Sherlock, of course, as always. Medusa as well, I find to be extremely bad for him, even though you kind of like ignore the ping as Khonshu, but it doesn't really matter because you're moving in as Khonshu to attack her, and then you're switching to Mr. Knight, and then you're getting pinged as Mr. Knight, and Mr. Knight hates effect damage. So yeah, um, it's just really bad. Then in slightly bad we have Tomoe, who can just aggro you down and force you to be in the worst forms and you just die. Jill cannot value you. Injin, you don't get to him. Rex can just kill you. Saddler, actually, as well, which is funny, and you can't really deal as much damage to her because, hey, she just completely shuts down aggro. Yen cannot value you, Achilles deals a bit too much damage, however, that is a bit more close. And the even ones, Tesla, Bat, Annie, Bigfoot, and She-Hulk, really interesting. Houdini, Luke, Alice Drag, it's just like the good ones, and then the actual ones we are favored against. Ones I should point out, probably Strange. You are really good against Strange because he basically only has two good blocks against Khonshu, being cloaks. Of course, he can recycle them, but if he doesn't get his shuffle cards, they will be bottom. So even something like Mists that might discard your card, well, every card with Khonshu is a scary attack because it will at least be a 4 or higher if you don't hit Let Your Insanity Guide you, in which case, well, you cry, but that's two cards in your whole deck. And you just hit way too hard for Stranger's 14 HP, and it's really hard for him as well to like trigger the rings because you have Mr. Knight with the defense bonuses and like your defenses are so stacked. Um, then Widow is also really good for you because, well, Contra ignores all of her scheme damage. And you deal so much damage that she dies. And then maybe someone like Little Red as well. Well, Little Red is all about the the effect damage, and that means if you're attacking with Conchu, she can't really play her best defenses, being something like a mouth. It won't just do anything. And yeah, the free wins maybe should point out Winter Soldier. He just dies. He can't trigger his healing at all. It's almost impossible for him to win that. Um, yeah, Panther. You just also kill him instantly, and yeah. But like it's sad because I really like Moonlight, but he's really bad into many meta-relevant fighters, being Sherlock, Elektra, Wukong, Achilles, Yen, Jill, Tomoe, Medusa. All of them are like really on top right now, and in the first like picks of any tournament. So since you are bad against all of them, you will have to ban them away every single time. And then you are like even with the other good ones, being Tesla, Golden Bat, Bigfoot, and She-Hulk, and Houdini maybe, and Luke. You are even with them, so you don't really have a winning matchup. So there are also like better picks. Um, but yeah, if you get to that point, Moon Knight is definitely a solid pick, and he's like still good. I just think the last sets hurt him a bit, but he's still a really versatile fighter. And like even the slightly bad ones, he has good chances in. Like he can fatigue Achilles. Sometimes he can just actually kill Yen or just outlast Rex. It's like not that they are impossible. It's just slightly bad, and there are often like better picks. And then getting to the maps, I've already scratched it a bit on Travelers. Moon Knight usually wants to play on a move 4 center map just because of Travelers to actually make use of that optimally to get your double attacks with Khonshu and just, well, kill your opponent. Other than that, like you're pretty versatile with your map choice and can often pick something that your opponent doesn't like because you don't have any effects that rely on maybe zoning or adjacency or whatever. So you don't really care that much. But the top three maps would be Sunnydale for me because, well, you have the move for center. You also have small pockets where you might be able to force adjacency. Um, Baskerville, you can move through the secret passages with your travelers, and since you have the Moonlight ability for extra mobility, you can make use of the secret passageways a bit better. And then Rex Paddock still move for center and actually a bit larger if you want to play the fatigue game, since if you have to go from one end to the other one, it's actually pretty big. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Feel free to write feedback or questions in the comments as always. And please tell me which character you want me to cover next. I've just like I said last week, seen many different requests. Next week we will have Black Panther, which is the one I've seen the most, and then after that I will take a look at Annie, because she's also like pretty new, and I've also seen someone requesting her. Other than that, I've also seen I think Houdini was asked, Wukong was asked, and yeah, just tell me which of these you want after Annie, and we'll probably get a good agreement there. I'm already like scared enough that I have to do Panther because Panther is like my number one hated character in all of Unmatched. But yeah, I'll do it for you. I'll suffer. But yeah, until next time.